Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, one and all, whenever and wherever you may be listening to us. You have your ears tuned in to episode 18 of the Caps Locks and Chair Shots podcast. I am your host. My name is Edward King. You can find me on RealSport101.com. Joining me, as always, is the muscle of the podcast, future voice of the Philippines, and hopeful MMA fighter. He is the one, the only, the Jaime.
A powerhouse night awaits you, wrestling fans, so let's start talking about wrestling.
Alright, and you know him as the Unfunny Comedian on Twitter. He has a very successful YouTube show. His name is Alex.
I may be leaving this show soon for fear of Fukushima radiation.
Oh, very nice. And he is my archenemy, my best friend, the real Danny D, Dan Dorrit.
I spent way too much time talking to Ed this week.
That is very true. And, ladies and gentlemen, a special treat for all of you tuning in. We have a very special guest. He is the senior editor-in-chief for the Real Sport website, coming to us live all the way from some town I do not care about. He is Gur Samuel. Say hello, Gur.
Good afternoon, guys, or good morning on that side of the pond.
Alrighty. Now let's jump right into things. As Alex mentioned before, Fukushima has become a pretty hot topic in the wrestling world, thanks in part to your exclusive interview with Low Key. Can you tell us about the story behind all that?
Absolutely. So we've had a good working relationship with Impact for a while, or Global Force as they are now. And every so often we'll get an email from them, hey, this wrestler's in town, I'm doing a couple of shows in the UK, do you want to come along and interview with them? So we got an email saying Loki's going to be in town. He's obviously something of an indie wrestling legend, which probably doesn't endear him to you, Ed, but nonetheless. So me and my producer Sam, we hopped on a train up to Wolverhampton, which I won't bore you with the geography of the UK, but it was a good couple of hours on the train. And it turns out we were the only outlet that actually made the trip to interview Loki face-to-face. We were given the option face-to-face interview or phone interview. We chose face-to-face, everyone else chose phone. And I think because of that, he was a lot more forthcoming in a lot of his answers than he might have been for people who didn't bother to make that trip. So, course of the interview, and it came to the question, why does he wrestle in a suit? It's a question everyone's been wanting to know ever since he reappeared in Impact earlier this year, wearing a suit and tie to the ring. And I was expecting a light-hearted, jokey answer, someone thought it would look good, something like that. And he goes, well, it all comes down to Fukushima. Not quite the answer I was expecting.
Okay, now, would you care to elaborate into that? What about Fukushima?
So, for those who don't remember, in 2011, Japan was hit with a massive tsunami in the east side of the island, and it caused a massive issue at the nuclear power plant in Fukushima. Ended up having sort of similar to Chernobyl in that a lot of Fukushima Island, a lot of nuclear materials leaking out into the atmosphere, and there are conflicting reports on how safe it is an area to be in. Now, Loki at the time was the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, and he was touring in New Japan, and during one of the tours, it was going to be New Japan's first show in Fukushima since the incident. Loki did not feel confident that it was safe to be there. He had genuine concerns for his own safety, he had concerns for the safety of everyone else involved in New Japan as well. He went up to them and said, we should not be doing a show here. This was back end of 2012, so less than 18 months after the nuclear disaster there. And New Japan says, we don't care. You've got to go wrestle there, and if you refuse, we will suspend you for a full year. Which, is, to me, kind of a little bit dictatorish. It's like, this is a guy who has genuine fears for his safety, and not unreasonable fears either. And the fact that the response was to threaten him with suspension for a year is, to me, that's just not how a company should operate. Based on that, Loki said, if that's the case, I've only got one more match under contract to you. I'm going to wrestle that match, and then I'm out. So he did, and that was the annual Wrestle Kingdom in Tokyo Dome. And for that match, he decided he was going to show, I'm not leaving because of anything else other than you guys are being unprofessional. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to be so professional, I'm going to wear a damn suit into the ring. Karen?
Oh, so Gur, why is Fukushima such an important market in New Japan?
Well, Loki claims that it was a very large television market. That was a little bit confusing to me, as it does seem it was house shows that was the show that he skipped. But there were some shows planned for early 2013, and I think one of those was going to be a TV show. So, from New Japan's perspective, it's an important television market. But you've also got to remember that the Japanese government have taken a very, very strange sort of attitude towards Fukushima. They've passed laws to limit what people can say, what scientists can say about the area. So I think part of it was, with the Japanese government, is trying to say it's business as usual. So seeing as New Japan used to tour there all the time before the accident, this was sort of like an indication that, things are back to normal now. And that's what I think was important for New Japan to say, we're part of this government initiative to say that, yes, it's now safe to be there, everything's okay again. And like I said, the official Japanese governmental reports seem to indicate that it's okay, but there are other studies from other places which make you wonder, depending on how much credence you want to give those other organizations.
Okay. Cool. Did we hear anything else from that interview? Is there any other, background stories? I believe you asked him who the toughest guy in Impact was.
So there are actually a lot of really cool stories in that interview. I would encourage everyone to check it out on realsport101.com. It's split over 3 parts. Always got to get that plug in. But there's loads of really cool answers and stories they gave. So in terms of who's the toughest, he mentioned a couple of guys. The one which surprised me most, because it's one I think most people wouldn't think of, was he mentioned Gail Kim. So Gail Kim is one of the 3 toughest people in that locker room, and obviously you wouldn't, for whatever reason, a lot of people wouldn't think of the Knockouts as having one of the toughest competitors in the locker room, but why not?
Yeah, that's true. She is a Hall of Famer too, and she's got a title match coming up next Thursday. It could be I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. But what was more interesting to me was the anecdote of the toughest person he's ever faced. And he gave 2 answers. One was Samoa Joe, which shouldn't be that surprising. The dude is a beast. But the other one was someone he never actually faced in a match, which was Batista. And he never had a match with Batista, but he did have a few sparring sessions with him when Batista was training for some upcoming matches. And Loki said that he was really struggling to sort of land a couple of hits on Batista because Batista's arm length, that's arm length, nothing else, Ed, was way too big. So every interview I've done, Ed keeps wanting me to ask the Batista question. I'll put it there. But yeah, Loki could get the hits. So, and Loki didn't say what the technique was, but he managed to get land a hit on Batista. Loki said he could see Batista's eyes change, and he said apparently hit him with a roundhouse kick to the thigh that Loki was still feeling 2 weeks later.
Wow, really cool stuff. Now, you're the editor-in-chief of the entire Real Sport website, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But wrestling's your baby. You still do your wrestling show every Wednesday or Thursday, depending on schedule availability. You're a wrestling guy, right?
Absolutely. Wrestling is, I'd say, of all the sports we cover, wrestling and NFL are the 2 which are closest to my heart.
Okay. Maybe it's just me being biased, but I am in 5 other different sports. Is wrestling the sport, at least here in America, that we cover the most out of NFL, MLB, NHL, basketball, and wrestling? That's our biggest thing. That's our bread and butter, isn't it?
It's certainly one of the largest. I mean, the biggest advantage it has is there is no off-season. So other sports will, at times have more traffic when they're maybe in the middle of the season. We're talking early November, NFL will be the top sport across the whole website, even more than soccer, which is the largest sport in the world. But wrestling, because there is no off-season, is a constant throughout the entire year. So that's why we always make sure to give it such prominence, because we know that wrestling doesn't go away for months at a time.
Very true. Now talk to us about the state of the WWE. Where do you see it right now? We're going into SummerSlam next week. Where do you see... Oh, by the way, our 2-hour SummerSlam special will also feature an exclusive interview with Mr. Gur Samuel as well, so stay tuned for that next week. What's the state of the WWE?
I think WWE is in a really, really interesting point. It's you can't ignore the fact that the network subscribing figures are down, or that viewing figures are down, and it's a really, really interesting thing because they seem to be trying to have it all. They're trying to get the same popularity they had in the Attitude Era, but they don't seem to be realizing it was the fact that it was, you know, a bit edgier. It was a bit more close to the bone. It was, you know, the guilty pleasure of seeing Stone Cold throw 2 middle fingers up in his boss's face. PG era, we can't do that anymore. Dean Ambrose would have thrived in the Attitude Era to be the swaggering badass who would literally hit you in the face with a chainsaw and doing all this crazy stuff. You know, I think it is restricting a lot of the guys. I think Talking Smack was incredible because the amount of character work which the wrestlers were allowed to do, and that's allegedly one of the reasons they cancelled it, was Vince didn't have the control over it, and because he wants to keep everything so scripted to keep it rated PG, I think we really are losing a lot of the best potential of some of the wrestlers in there. I use Baron Corbin as an example. Baron Corbin became a fantastic talker on Talking Smack, but that's never really transferred onto main SmackDown. When he's been on guest commentary, he's never done anything close to as good a job on the mic as he did on Talking Smack. I don't know why that is.
Well, I think I can answer why that may be. It's because of the lack of restriction. You give somebody a little bit of freedom to let them be themselves, kind of like what we do on this podcast, and it's going to be 1,000 times better than somebody who's pigeonholed into acting. You have to be a specific role. You have to be this way. I think we're seeing that a lot with Corbin. Am I wrong there?
No, I don't think you're wrong at all, and I think you know, you're exactly right. In fact, that's exactly why I think Corbin did come across so much better on Talking Smack. You know, a lot of the times the script room don't know how to script for their personalities. I think if you look at a Sasha Banks promo in NXT versus a Sasha Banks promo in the main roster, they don't know how to write for Sasha's voice. It's very clear on the main roster. They've completely ruined Bayley because, again, they don't know how to write for her voice. I think there's a lot of wrestlers who are really hurt by the lack of creativity and freedom that they used to have. On the plus side, I think that's why maybe from an in-ring perspective, WWE has never been more talented because with the promos so stilted, the only way to excel is to improve your in-ring game. You know, there are plenty of guys who weren't great wrestlers but had great gimmicks. Val Venus being a classic example. Not a great in-ring wrestler, but you always remember him because his gimmick was so great. Now, where the gimmicks don't have that freedom to really move, if you're not a great in-ring wrestler, you're not going to survive for long in today's WWE.
You know what? It's a very valid point. I don't agree with you on Val Venus. I thought he was at least passable in the ring. But since we asked you about the WWE, let's ask you about, and Dan's going to argue with me on this later on, the second biggest company in America, and that's TNA, or GFW, or Impact, or whatever the fans want to associate their name is. What's the state of the GFW?
So I think they're a really interesting crossroads. Like I mentioned earlier, we do have good relations with them, so I do get to interview quite a few of their wrestlers, and they all say the same thing, is it's so different to what the company was on the TNA. The locker room atmosphere is so much more positive. Speaking with guys like Loki, with guys like David E. Rich, you can tell that they really appreciate the fact that the wrestlers are being catered to a lot more in terms of making sure that they can do what they want to do in the ring, on the mic. I think there's more stability there. I think the problem it still has is, one, it's got a long way to go to shake the reputation of the Dixie Party is. They can change the name all they like, that reputation isn't going to go away overnight. But the second thing is, I really feel bad by how many they take at one time. You can see it. at the end of every taping cycle, the matches are a bit slower. Even in the beginning, the matches are a bit slow because you can tell the wrestlers are trying to conserve their energy for later on. You know, I tried and didn't really get into a lot of Impact until Slammiversary. Slammiversary was the first time I'm like, right, I'm giving this a proper go. And you know what? It wasn't perfect, but more than enough to draw me in every episode of Impact since. But you can...
Okay, hold on, stop.
Okay, Gur, so what do you think about the future of, since we are talking about WWE, what do you think about the future, which is NXT, now that they're raiding indie talent to be their top stars? But they have shown in the past that they're good at creating talent out of less experienced indie people. But what can you say about this, the future going forward?
You know, I think NXT, like a lot of the industry, is at a really interesting point. You know, there was a time in, was it back 2015 and first half of 2016 when they were the most exciting thing in all of wrestling. A lot of those guys are now on the main roster, and they haven't fully reclaimed that level of stardom. You know, there's guys in there like Drew Galloway, Chris Hero, who clearly have the sort of indie pedigree that some of those superstars had back in 2015 to 2016. But there isn't that same level of depth. That's true of the tag team division, it's true of the men's singles division, I'd argue. They're starting to build up more stars, but what I think the future is going to lie in, and there's a lot more buzz on the internet that this is going to happen, is we're going to start seeing some main roster guys being moved back down to NXT. And I think that is going to be a really good way to get NXT back to where it was, is give these guys some established stars, guys who are going nowhere on the main roster. Let's move them back to NXT and let them help make them stars. You know, as you're saying, there are less experienced guys who can really do with a more experienced hand guiding them. Someone like Ziggler, who hasn't appeared on TV, I think, since Money in the Bank. Let's put him at NXT. He can bump for anyone. He can be a huge part in building up some single stars. Because, you know, we know he's not going to get another run on the main roster. Shinsuke already let it slip that at some point he's moving on to Japan. So in the meantime, why not put him in NXT and let him build up a couple of stars?
All right, Dan, you have something that we've talked...
I also have another question for Gur as well. So you feel like bringing down some of the main roster talent is going to help? I mean, we all know the influx of talent that they just got and that they're getting. We know that this is Leo Rush's last weekend on the Indies. We know Donovan Dijak signing after Bola. He's going to be reporting to Orlando. We know that they just got, obviously, Red Dragon is there now, which you don't have to put them together. But you still feel that way, even with the influx of talents, the rumors of Adam Cole going?
I do, because I think we're going to have an influx of talent going the other way. I would be surprised if, let's say, by the end of Survivor Series, I'm going to expect Bobby Roode's going to be on the main roster. I'm expecting Aleister Black to be on the main roster. Maybe even Cassius Ohno to be on the main roster. Maybe even Drew McIntyre to be on the main roster. I'm expecting Asuka on the main roster. I'm expecting Authors of Pain on the main roster. I'm expecting, there's a lot of rumours that post SummerSlam we're going to have another superstar shake-up, and I think you're going to see quite a lot of NXT talent moving up to the main roster, and some of the main roster guys moving back down to NXT in their place.
Okay, one last question before we let you go. You said Cassius Ohno's going to the main roster. Are they going to have to reinforce the ring for his fat ass?
You know what? I absolutely love Cassius Ohno because, man, he makes me believe that a fat guy can do amazing things in the ring. I know you hate indie stuff, but when you see some of what he was doing in last year's Bola, for example, he put on some fantastic matches. And, I remember Chris Hero, before he became Cassius Ohno the first time, and he was still a significantly smaller guy. And the fact that he's been able to put so much power behind his move without really sacrificing his agility, I think, between the Kevin Owenses and maybe Bray Wyatt, they were getting to stop talking and just I think we're due for a fat guy revival on the main roster, and I think Cassius Ohno can be leading that fat guy crusade from the front.
Alrighty, well...
I actually do have one quick question.
Let's go.
It's been brought up. NXT is poaching indie stars. They're poaching Ring of Honor stars, New Japan, TNA, GFW, whatever. That can't go on forever. What happens when they poach all of the top stars from the Indies? What happens when they poach all of TNA stars? Where does WWE and NXT go from there?
It's a very good question, and I do think it is interesting to see so many guys with so much promise who perhaps might have done better if they stayed on the Indies rather than going to NXT. I think of Leo Rush. I saw Leo Rush at Rev Pro. It was a 6-man tag match, him and Shane Strickland and Ryan Smile versus the Elite. Phenomenal match. Leo Rush looked like a superstar. I think he should have stuck on the Indies. I think you're going to see more people doing what James Storm did, going to NXT, deciding, this isn't for me, and then going back. I think we're going to see more of that. I also think we're going to see more deals structured like the British guys. So if you think Dunstan, Tyler Bates, and Mark Andrews, who they perform at NXT, they do the WWE tapings, but they also keep a lot of indie dates. And I think we're going to see more deals structured that way of guys who can be in NXT and on the indies, and they don't need to commit full time to WWE until they hit the main roster.
So one more question, Gur. This is the question of the week.
Yep,
you saw the discussion that I was trying to have in our chat. I have a decision to make. It is either go to Boston, New York, either today, or next Saturday, this Saturday, or next Sunday. If I go this Saturday, I am catching Evolve 91 and Progress, because I'm going to Evolve 90 in Baltimore tonight, actually. Or go to TakeOver or SummerSlam. Obviously, money does play somewhat of a factor. Going to sleep last night, I'm leaning towards going tomorrow. What are your opinions, and what would you do?
If you were to go next weekend, would you be able to extend that for the Monday to be at the post-SummerSlam Raw?
No, hotels are way too expensive in New York right now.
Shame. In which case, I'd say this weekend. Otherwise, I would have said TakeOver plus Raw after SummerSlam. But if you can't do the Raw after SummerSlam, I say this weekend.
All right, good deal.
Okay.
Thanks for your opinion.
All right, folks. That was Gur Samuel. He is the senior editor-in-chief for RealSport101.com. Gur, do you have any final pieces you want to give out your Twitter or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Hit me up on Twitter at Gur Samuel. That's GURSAMUEL. Beyond that, there's fantastic wrestling coverage on the website. There's fantastic coverage across all our sports. If you're into soccer, obviously Premier League starts this weekend, so we have a lot of content about that. NFL preseason started last night, lots of content about that. And of course, wrestling all year round. So all the sport needs to make sure you keep it real.
All right. Hey, thanks for joining us, Gur.
All right, so looking forward to next week.
All right, that was Gur, as you guys just heard. Now let's jump back into what we normally do. Jaime, give me one thing that you fell in love with wrestling this week that wasn't Baron Corbin.
Well, you have the Usos versus Ty Dillinger and Sami Zayn. That was a good match. Randy Orton and Jinder Mahal had the best match they had ever.
It only took 15 matches.
That's true.
Yeah.
Alex,
Finally have in-ring chemistry.
Alex, what about you? Was it the flying death chair?
It had to be the flying death chair. That spot was awesome. It was so cartoonish.
But it was perfect because it caught Roman like he didn't even see it. Like he just turns around and all of a sudden.
Right in the head too.
I don't know if he actually saw that coming. Like I don't know if he was expecting that.
I mean, the way it looked with all the hair he's got, he's turning around, the hair's in his face, and all of a sudden, bam! A small lazy boy comes flying his way. It was perfect.
It was like a Wile E. Coyote cartoon.
Oh, I completely agree. Dan, what about you?
Tough week. I thought it was a rough week in wrestling.
Okay.
I'll tell you one thing I am going to love. I'm going to love Evolve tonight. I am extremely looking forward to this show. And I will give you guys a report on that next week. If I decide to go Saturday, I will also give you guys a report on that. That is kind of the way I'm leaning. Who knows, maybe I'll make a double trip and I will end up at SummerSlam too. You never know with me. I am just one of those guys to where I bought a floor ticket to Extreme Rules last minute, the day of the show. 5 hours before the show.
What exactly is the card for this Progress show?
It is ridiculous.
Okay, maybe I should be more specific. Is Jimmy Havoc there?
I do believe Jimmy Havoc
Yes,
is there.
he's going to be there.
Now I'm really...
Jimmy Havoc will be there. Some of the other matches on there, like, just really quick, I know we got to move on. It's going to be Pete Dunne versus Jack Gallagher for the UK title. You got Trent Seven and Tyler Bate versus the TK Cooper and Travis Banks. Dakota Kai is going to be there. Joey Janela, Donovan Dijak, Walter, Mark Andrews, Matt Riddle. Like, it's just a stacked card for guys that I might only get to see WrestleMania weekend if I go again this year. It's one of those types of things.
Oh, hold on. You're going this year. We're recording the podcast live together this year. You're going.
Are you going?
Yes.
Then okay.
I'm going to be there if I got to sleep in a cardboard box outside of whatever stadium they're going to be in. I'm going to be there.
Alright. Then I'll be there.
Alright.
It's the Superdome, brother.
Nolans? Oh, fuck. Screw sleeping. I'm just going to get drunk the whole time. I'm sure I could hang out with some bums and get drunk. Maybe I could be a bum. Could I be a bum in Vegas and New Orleans? I could do it.
You can probably be a bum where you are now, but I digress.
Give me one thing you hated this week, Dan.
SmackDown.
All of it?
Yes, it was Bizarro Land. That and Raw both. I didn't like either show. There were good spots in each show, but I just thought the overall quality of the shows, they weren't. Like, I have so much high hopes for Raw and SmackDown this week with them being the go-home shows. I'm really, really, really hoping that they don't screw, that they give us something better than they did last week.
Okay.
Like I said to you the other day, like, I got home almost an hour late, and I caught up to SmackDown, DVRing, like, fast-forwarding, before the show was over. Same thing with Raw. I got home an hour late, and I was caught up. I mean, there's just way too much filler in there. They need to swerve us. They need to give us a swerve.
Listen, bro, what we really need, bro, let me tell you something, bro. We need a swerve, bro. Alright, bro?
So is that a reference to Zack Ryder and Mojo Rawley?
That was my best Vince Russo. I can't do a better New York accent than that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't listen to Mr. Russo. Although, Mr. Russo, if you would like to come onto our podcast and you do listen to us, get a hold of us. We'd love to have you. That being said, speaking of Vince Russo, doing some work on a pretty massive project this week on the history of TNA. Global Force Wrestling, Impact, what have you. Vince Russo did as much to destroy that company as Dixie Carter. Just throwing that out there right now.
You can't really blame Vince Russo for the absolute downfall of TNA, because that's like blaming the dog for chewing on a bone.
No. Make no mistake, I'm not blaming Vince Russo. I'm just saying, if you can point 10 fingers at 10 things that helped take down TNA to almost the point of death, Vince Russo gets at least a finger. We're giving you a finger, Vince Russo. We're giving you a finger.
The middle one.
Yes.
You get 2 middle ones from me.
Ooh, alright. Well, come defend yourself, Mr. Russo. We're here.
Because you're a homophobic... I'm gonna stop.
Please do. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about Eli Drake. Jaime, you've been itching to talk about this man for weeks. He wasn't on Impact. Neither was Chris Adonis, Ethan Carter III. This is, what, I think you've had a running tally 2 months in a row. We haven't heard him on the mic other than to say his name. Where are we going from here with his career there, Jaime?
I think Eli Drake has other ventures. You know, he already has some celebrity background back then. I think Eli Drake's promos, his mic, the promos he cuts, it's like Sting's face paint or his baseball bat or some trademark item of any big star. Eli Drake has his voice. See, I think he demands more for his voice. That's just my opinion. He demands extra to cut promos, and they just want to, save some money. That's why they're not giving Eli Drake that mic time, but still put him in matches.
Anybody else got a thought on Eli Drake?
Without giving him mic time, he's completely useless.
That's a pretty bold take. I mean, he's still pretty...
He is not a good wrestler. He is, at best, mediocre in the ring.
I wouldn't...
do think D'Angelo Williams was the second best wrestler in that match at Slammiversary.
Yeah, okay.
Behind Moose.
Oh, God. Dan, no. That's just factually incorrect. That's not even a judgment call.
I mean, Moose can't be a bad wrestler. Let's be honest here, because Ring of Honor did trust him enough to push him to the point where they put him in a one-on-one match with Kazuchika Okada.
I think they put him in a match with Okada so Okada could carry him through that entire match so he wouldn't be exposed as the fraud that he is in the ring.
Hearing Ed say Okada is music to my ears.
Let's move on. We got to talk about Destination X. We won't get together until after that show is over, so let's go over the card. Okay? Let's start at the very top. Alberto El Patron versus Low Ki, probably with the 5 other members of LAX. Does El Patron keep his title?
No way. He's dropping that quicker than a fly would drop on a pile of shit.
Then they're... Okay. Alex, your thoughts?
Does Rey Mysterio have a contract set in stone yet? Because that's going to decide whether El Patron keeps the title.
No matter, Ray can't appear on TV still.
Really? I thought his contract with LU had ran out.
No, so the way the contract's set up is he can't appear on any American television until season 3 is over, which is not over yet. And then there's a 90-day no-compete after that.
Why did anyone ever agree to those contracts?
Money. Pure, plain, and simple, it's money.
It's the same thing why Ricochet can't appear on American TV unless it's New Japan on Access. I don't know.
No, they have to come out on Access.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yep.
Am I missing something there?
I mean, no, not really, because you don't care about New Japan.
Okay, very well. Jaime, who wins that match?
El Patron's not going to win that match. You have the entire LAX ringside.
Okay.
There's enough influence, especially with the numbers game.
All right.
And El Patron doesn't have his family by his side anymore, so that just handicaps him even more.
Not
but
to mention,
does he have Paige?
He's a ticking time bomb. He's a ticking time bomb right now. Like, granted, they've been out of the news for, like, what, a week and a half? Like, do you think they can go another week and a half? I don't know. I honestly don't know. The over-under on that's, like, right around there. Like,
the thing about it is, he wasn't at fault for the reason they're in the news. It wasn't his deal. Like, that was Paige being ridiculous.
He did say that he hopes her dying uncle dies.
Maybe he's just all for people not suffering.
And Paige does no wrong. I just want you to know that. Paige does no wrong in my eyes. Everything is ADR's fault.
AEP's fault.
Whatever.
Anyway, so all 3 of you guys are picking Low Ki, correct?
No, I picked El Patron.
Oh, wow. Well, me and you were going to agree on something. And the reason I'm thinking El Patron's going to win this, the feud that he has with LAX is way too hot. LAX doesn't need the championship to still be a driving force in GFW. And if El Patron loses to LAX, who's going to challenge Low Ki for the heavyweight championship? There is no other babyface that can step in immediately behind him unless it's Matt Sydal, who will beat Bobby Lashley. We'll talk about that here in a few seconds. Who can challenge Low-Ki for that title.
World champion just sounds absolutely wrong.
What's that now?
Low-Ki as world champion just sounds wrong on levels that I can't comprehend.
I think it would be fantastic. But maybe I'm just...
I do too, and the fact that Gur's piece is getting picked up by so many different sources, reputable sources in the business, like, I really think that they should push him. Like, I feel like that should be one of the reasons why they actually push him. To bring more attention to their company. Like, oh, look at what New Japan missed out on. This guy's world heavyweight material.
Okay, I get that, and that's a valid point. But think about the story in and of itself. Low-Ki didn't do a job for a company that's often seen as tyrannical because he brought up safety concerns for not just him, but for everybody else. Huge face move. They're trying to build Low-Ki into being a heel. It would completely contradict everything. Unless he turns his...
GFW does, though.
Unless he turns his back on LAX. That's the only way this works.
GFW, for when you need a good screwing up today.
That's not... Okay, never mind. I was going to say it's not fair, but I can't. Anyway, alright, let's talk about the other World Championship match. Sienna is going to take on GFW Hall of Famer Gail Kim.
Before we talk about the actual match, can we talk about how stupid it is that they've kept the knockout branding?
I don't hate it.
It's the same as, like, WWE still calling them divas. It's borderline sexist.
How so?
Aren't you all about that?
Yeah, don't you hate women?
It's sexist because it's divas was worse because that has an inherently negative connotation.
Okay.
But it inherently separates them from the rest of the roster. It makes them feel lesser.
Well, I think they kept knockouts because it separates the GFW knockouts from every other woman in wrestling.
That's true.
You Google knockouts, you're going to come up with one of three things. Muhammad Ali, MMA, and the GFW women's division.
Or porn.
Just saying. I think that's why they're going to keep it. Who wins that match, Alex? Gail Kim or Sienna?
Gail Kim's retiring, so I'm going to have to say Sienna.
You don't think they're going to let her go out on top, go all, Peyton Manning?
I feel like that was the entire point of her winning at Bound for Glory from Maria last year. So she had that one last moment on top before she retires.
Well, let's not forget, TNA or GFW, whatever you want to call them, was the place where Christian coined his famous phrase, one more match. Maybe this is Gail Kim's one more match. Dan, who wins it?
Gail Kim.
Jaime?
Gail Kim.
All right. Jaime, let's stay with you. Matt Sydal, Bobby Lashley. What's up?
I like Matt Sydal to win, but I think it's impossible. I think Lashley's going with the win, which would make me want to replace him on the fantasy.
No, I think you're right with your first thing, and let me tell you why. They ran, before they did the whole getting dirty with Dutch or whatever that new segment was, which I was kind of a fan of. I like Dutch Mantel. They ran a promo about Bobby Lashley having a tough time choosing between the GFW and MMA. I've heard rumors that he may have a fight as early as November. He's going to have to leave at some point to go train for said fight. Being a wrestler doesn't keep you in the greatest of shape to be an MMA fighter. This would put Matt Sydal into a new stratosphere. If Low-Ki beats Alberto El Patron, the Matt Sydal Low-Ki match could be a 5+ star match by Dave Meltzer. It would be something that a lot of people would tune in to see just because it is them too. The GFW may outsmart all of us by making all of this happen. And then if Seidel wins, or if Low-Key wins, or whoever wins in that eventual fight, Lashley could come back whenever it is and be like, I'm coming back to redeem myself. And just completely destroy Seidel, saying, I'm back, I'm stronger, I'm meaner, I can kick your ass now, and I'm always going to kick your ass. And then have a full-on walking Armageddon assault for the TNA Championship. Or GFW Championship. Anybody disagree with me?
I don't disagree because I'm pretty sure I heard maybe a couple weeks ago that was it Bellator wanted to put Lashley in a heavyweight title match. If that's the case, he's definitely going to need to go through a very thorough training camp.
Dan, what say you? Dan?
I'm leaning Seidel.
That was riveting. That was a riveting 15 seconds of radio. Just saying. That was amazing, Dan. You kept us on the edge of our seat.
Man.
Yeah, I'm leaning Seidel because I think Lashley's gonna have to go to a camp. I think he's got a camp coming up,
All right.
and this is gonna be his way to step away and be like, I'm gonna do what I want to do because I'm the walking Armageddon and blah 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 blah.
And I'm Black Brock Lesnar.
Is it possible that maybe Brock Lesnar is the white Bobby Lashley?
I like that better, actually.
All I know is I still want to see Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley, whether it's in MMA or wrestling.
Why?
Because they're two big, badass guys that would just kick the ever-loving crap out of each other. It would be awesome.
They don't wear tight enough tights for you, though.
This is true. They're also very muscular. I'm not into that.
Okay. All right. So we know that you like banana hammocks on fat guys. Good to know.
No. Definitely not fat guys.
Ed, Alex has a request.
Not gonna happen. So the GFW X Division Championship will be on the line when Sanjay Dutt fights to get his title back from challenger Trevor Lee. It'll be in a ladder match, but not an Ultimate X. Dan, that's totally screwed up, right?
I think the champion has had the belt around his waist for a few weeks now.
Really?
Yeah.
I have been very critical of the job that Bruce Pritchard's done, and we'll get to Bruce Pritchard in a second, as far as just not, hey, give it back. Like, 3 words that can be said, and all of this foolishness can be over with. Just give it back.
So apparently Sanjay Dutt did have the belt back, and then they were doing a show in New York, a house show, at a baseball stadium.
Yeah.
Did you see this clip? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Trevor Lee grabs the belt and just runs across the field, and Sanjay Dutt chases.
Hey, at least they're keeping kayfabe alive. You got to give them credit for that. As dumb as it looked, kayfabe's still alive and well.
That was great. No, I thoroughly enjoyed that clip when I saw it.
Okay, so you're picking Trevor Lee?
Trevor Lee.
Jaime, who you pick?
I'm picking Trevor Lee.
Alex?
Well, I'm going to have to say Trevor Lee as well, because they couldn't even get people to actually pay for their live event in India, so what hope do they have of expanding into the territory?
I'm going to go against you guys again. I think it's going to be Sanjay, just because. I have no reason to back it up. I have nothing to back it up with. But it's going to be Sanjay. That's just my gut feeling. We talked about Lashley and Seidel. We talked about Kim and Sienna. We talked about Trevor Lee and Sanjay, Patron and Low-Key. Let's talk about what could be the match of the year for the GFW. Taji Ishimori is going to take on Desmond Xavier in the Super X Cup tournament final.
Let me tell you something. If this is the first time you've ever seen Desmond Xavier when he went on GFW TV, you're missing out. YouTube the guy. His indie work is amazing. Probably one of the best performers out there right now. Hands down, Desmond Xavier deserves to win the Super X Cup.
Well, we know he's going to win. Ishimori's going to go back to Japan. We're not going to see him on American television probably for a month or so. Xavier's going to win this, correct, Dan?
Yes. And, I've been a little bit more critical about GFW than you have lately. I will admit that. But one thing I am happy that they are doing, I don't know how contracts are set up. I don't really care. It's none of my business how these people get paid, right? I am so happy that they are letting their talent still work the indie scene.
Well,
because
I can explain a little bit on the contract thing. If it's the same contracts, and they said they were going to keep it the norm that they offered the Hardys, it's X amount of money, the top stars get guaranteed, everybody else gets paid by appearance, and then they have to give the GFW 10% of all their earnings from outside of the GFW.
Right. Well, that's a rumor, and there's been claims that that's not the case for contracts for all of them. But I'm just so happy. Like, I'm so happy Desmond Xavier's still going to be able to work the Indies if he wants, because this guy is a spectacle. He's a wrestler that people deserve to see outside of just being on TV.
How long do
Once again, I have to ask, why would you sign such a horrible contract?
Money.
Why is GFW and Lucha Underground, why do they feel the need to write up these completely arbitrary and restricting contracts? Like, I get it, you don't want your guys appearing on other television shows. It's fine, I get that. But just add a little thing in the contract. You don't need to add all these little stipulations.
Well, for one, there's precedence. For two, it's smart business to keep the Rick Rude situation from happening. For example, Lucha Underground runs on tape off of net or wherever they air. So you can't have somebody like Rey Mysterio appear in the final episode of Lucha Underground that doesn't air for 3 weeks, and then him show up on Monday Night Raw tomorrow and completely run down Lucha Underground, which still has 3 more episodes yet to air. I get it. I get the 90-day notice.
But that still leaves a 90-day period after that, which is completely arbitrary and unnecessary.
It's a
normally the 90-day no-compete clauses have to do with, basically they have the right to negotiate a contract with you within those 90 days. WWE's 90 days no-compete clause, I can't speak for GFW or Lucha Underground, but during those 90 days, for WWE, you're still getting paid, so you can transition into that next step in your life. And most of the time, WWE, which is the big one, obviously, they allow their wrestlers to take certain independent bookings. Anything during those 90 days, they have to get approved by the WWE to say whether or not they can compete at that show, because the WWE is still paying them. And I can't speak as far as the 90 days for Lucha and GFW. Well, but that's normally how that works.
From the interview that Jeff Jarrett has given Real Sport on a number of occasions, he said he has tried to model the contracts both in the GFW and now with what has become the GFW that used to be TNA. He's tried to model them the best he could out of the same contracts that he signed in WCW and the WWE. So take that for what you will. I assume it would be something extremely similar. Now, Jaime.
They are taking 10%.
Yeah, yeah.
If that is true, if they are taking 10%, I have a small issue with that. Only because it's not.
I have a very large issue with that, because they tried to take 10% of Brandy Rhodes' pay from a TV show she got herself on, not even related to wrestling.
I mean, you can put anything you want in a contract if somebody signs it, it's binding.
They're trying to take 15% of everything the Hardys have. Not just the broken stuff, but everything the Hardys.
Yeah, well, like I said, in the end, I could put in a contract that you got to put on a chicken suit and cluck like a chicken and walk into the ocean. If you sign a contract, you got to do it. They have a choice not to sign. The Hardys didn't sign.
No, this is #FTO.
Okay, sure. No idea what that means, but let's run with it.
F that out.
All right. Jaime, who wins this match? Ishimori or Xavier?
I'm going with Ishimori because I'm looking at this match because both guys can work. I'm looking at this match as a part 2 or a rip-off of Cedric Alexander versus Kota Ibushi in the Cruiserweight Classic.
Okay. Alex, who wins? Alex.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be a good match. It probably won't be great. It's in the TNA style.
But who wins?
Oh, who wins? Yeah, sorry, my Skype cut out for a second there. Probably Desmond Xavier, because I can't imagine them wanting to put over a Noah guy over one of their own.
Okay. All right. One last thing we got to talk about Destination X. There's going to be a huge announcement that is going to shake the very foundation of the GFW roster, and it will be made by Bruce Pritchard, who had a backstage argument with Karen Jarrett that was caught on hidden cameras by the GFW. It was aired on Impact. What is the announcement? Anybody got any theories?
New title.
Something? Probably, yeah.
We know the new titles are coming. Is it something more?
No, it'll probably just be new titles because that's all GFW knows how to do is anticlimactic, non-conclusions.
Jaime, you have something?
New recruits.
Okay. I'm gonna say y'all are wrong. It's going to be Bruce Pritchard is gonna be without a job. Friday, August 18th. He's getting fired. I don't know if he's maybe not fired, but he's quitting. That's what I hope. Anybody got any theories?
I have a question. Does Bruce Pritchard have an actual role backstage, or is he exclusively on screen?
No, he is an advisor.
He is actually something backstage.
Yes. Same with Dutch Mantel. Same with Sanjay Dutt, and there's a few others. But yes, he's yeah.
I knew about Sanjay Dutt and I knew about Dutch Mantel, but
yep, he's not the head of creative, but he's one of the guys that has a voice in that room. Yes.
Right.
I think maybe
then, fire him.
I think maybe this is them firing him to get him off of television. Dan, am I wrong there?
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think just because we want it to happen, it's not going to happen.
All right. Jaime, your thoughts?
I mentioned your arrival, but another theory is, yeah, they'll be fired on screen like how they did with Eric Bischoff. The McMahons did with Eric Bischoff, taking out the trash.
Okay. All right. Now, there's one last thing we're going to get to, and this is something that I have felt pretty strongly about over the last, month or so, and it's guys not showing up. And whether they're not showing up or just not competing on the shows. If we take a look at some of the guys that just haven't been there, there we go. And we look at the guys that didn't show up on Raw. Kurt Hawkins, which is not unexpected. We know the Revival's out. Elias Sampson, somebody we've seen the last 3 weeks. The Hardy Boys weren't on Raw. We haven't seen Callisto in a couple of months. Is he hurt? Is he getting repackaged? Does anybody know?
I could have sworn we just saw him a few weeks ago.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Wasn't he on just, was it Superstars or Main Event just the other week?
I'm talking about stuff that matters.
Okay, well, I'm just saying he's not completely gone.
Okay. Aiden English. Where was he on SmackDown? Chad Gable. We know we're not going to see Jericho or Ziggler. Are the clones still employed by the WWE?
For now.
Okay. We know we're not going to see Kane. Where were the Canelli? That's the problem.
It's actually always a disappointing week when they are not on TV.
I thought that was
busy being consumed by the burning power of love.
I thought that was one of the best things about SmackDown. That and the Fashion Files, to be honest. The Fashion Files were just... I could watch all of those and be okay.
God, the Fashion Police would have a heyday with the Maria and Mike Bennett.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Oh,
Interesting.
maybe they're the ones that kidnapped Fandango. I mean, we saw who assaulted the horse Tully, and Arn Anderson should go to jail. Just saying he murdered Tully, but I think you're onto something there,
Alex.
Alex.
That is not harsh enough for Arn Anderson. I call for the death sentence.
Well, you can't kill a horseman. You can kill a horse, just not the horsemen.
Death by bad fashion.
That's already happened. Have you seen his hair?
This is true.
Becky Lynch wasn't on SmackDown.
Yeah, she wasn't.
Is that a problem with anybody? You know, we saw Carmella, we saw Charlotte, Lana, Naomi, Natalya, and even Tamina, but no Becky Lynch.
No, that's fine.
No, that's a very big problem. She is easily the most over woman on the roster.
Let's take a look at...
Charlotte might be over the moon.
Yeah,
Not as a face.
over doesn't mean how well you're liked. Over just means how the people react to you.
But they're pushing her as a face, not as a heel, and she's over as a heel.
You guys didn't pick up on that.
Oh, Moonsault. Oh!
Oh, boo.
Well done,
I'm
Dan.
actually talking about her mooning the crowd, but that's fine. When Lana pulled her trunks down.
I was too obsessed with seeing Lana's boob. But anyway, let's move on. Other people that weren't on their shows. Add Andrew Everett, Braxton Sutter. We didn't see Caleb Connolly or Suicide, which is not really that shocking. When was the last time we saw DJ Z at all?
He's injured.
He's injured, I think.
Is he?
He's not. He was just cleared the other day.
Okay.
He's been injured.
Eddie Edwards, Eli Drake, Ethan Carter III. We didn't see on Impact last night.
I have an issue with that.
I have a big issue with a title holder not being on your only TV show on television.
Yes, Ethan Singh III should be on.
F&A, Cotton. F&A.
Not having EC3 on the show is like not having John Cena on the show. He's the face of the company.
Yeah.
Who's John Cena? Was that the guy that got beat by Nakamura?
Why are you going to do this, Dan? I mean, why do you got to push buttons? You're pushing buttons for the sake of pushing frickin' buttons. You did all this work to build up Mahabali Shera. Haven't seen him in a couple of weeks. Moose, you lose the Grand Championship and now you're just gone. Okay. Rockstar.
He's on another tour in Japan.
Is he on another tour?
He might be. I'm not sure. He does a lot of work over there.
Okay.
For them.
Here's something I have a really big issue with. You spent literally hours building up Rockstar, Spud, and Swoggle. With the exception of one Vimeo, I think it was on, about Spud yelling at his mother. We haven't seen either one since Slammiversary. That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a waste. Am I wrong there? I mean, I know nobody cares, but...
A waste of Spud, yes. A waste of Swoggle, not so much.
I'm just saying, if you're gonna give them characters, let them be their characters on TV where they belong. And speaking of more people that weren't on the show that have been on the show all the time, no Allie, no Angelina Love, which although
Davey Richards.
Thank you, is on his way out of Impact, so that's understandable. There was no Rosemary. No Rosemary at all. Like, that's odd, right?
Yeah, because she's been positioned as like the new Gail Kim.
And she wasn't, no mention of her. No talk about her other than Sienna saying, I kicked her ass. No mention of her whatsoever. That's a problem. But, speaking of problems, guys, we are at our limit. We're out of time. we normally give out our Twitter at this time, but we're not even sure if this show is going to make air. For those of you that don't know, SoundCloud is going through some changes, and one of those changes may be they may not exist anymore. So if you're hearing this on a different website other than SoundCloud, we'd like to thank you for following us to our new platform. If you're listening to us on SoundCloud, we'd like to thank SoundCloud for still being our platform. We will like to let you guys know that we may be switching to a different hosting site in the next coming months, depending on the instability that is going on with SoundCloud. Also, if you're looking for us on iTunes, keep looking. We're not going to be there just yet. We're still working on an agreement to get a hosting site that will allow us to be on iTunes, so stay tuned for that. But we're out of time. And Dan, we all know if you're not down with us, Dan's just got 2 words for you.
Okada and Omega.
Oh, Jesus Christ. We're at the end. You pull this crap right before I press stop on the recording. Why?
Why not? You asked for my 2 words. My 2 words of the day are Okada and Omega.
Is it because the G1's getting close? Is that why you torment me with this?
It absolutely is. It absolutely is.
Okay, fine. Before we end the show, talk about the G1. You got like a minute and a half.
You have your final 3 days coming up. Block A ends tonight, Block B ends tomorrow, and then we have our finals on Sunday. I am looking forward to the Okada-Omega match that is coming up. If you can't tell by me constantly mentioning Okada and Omega.
I'm looking forward to Omega finally getting his damn win.
Over Okada?
Yeah.
Not happening.
Are you guys done now?
Don't tell us how to live our lives.
We can try it again, Ed. Ready? Take 2.
No, Dan. You can't be trusted. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that'll be the end of the show. And as always, if you're not down with us, I have 2 words for you. Keep listening.